What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Voss Fit. Now, a slight change of plan. I was about to introduce a series called Less is More, but seeing as in the UK anyway, we've gone back into national lock-off, I just wanted to share with you guys some tips about how I stay sane. Now, like most of us, I want to live my best life. I want to live free and without fear because I feel you get the best out of life when you have no limits. So my intention with all these disciplines and habits is to create a framework where I can solidify a foundation, eliminate fear as much as possible so that I can find grounding and balance and peace in almost any situation. Not to say that this always works, but it's definitely better to have something that might work than nothing, because nothing never works. No matter how much we try to control or micromanage our lives, if there's one thing that pops up again and again, it's that we never know what's going to happen. We never know what's going to happen. One of my friends showed me a video of an older lady and she was saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. But whether you believe in a God or you don't, I think one thing we can all agree on is that some things are just out of our hands. So what can we do to stay grounded and balanced during these times? How can you become a gimbal in an earthquake? Personally, the greatest thing for me is purpose. For me, purpose isn't an instant reward. It's a long-term commitment to something. To work on your purpose takes time, and nowadays we've been conditioned with this whack attention span that's just hungry for distractions. It used to be easier to distract ourselves from ourselves. We could socialize, we could go out and meet friends, places will be open, there'll be activities and other things to do, but now some are actually forced to be alone. Because we're unfamiliar with aloneness, we look harder for distractions and then feel frustrated because we can't find them or get access to them as freely as we used to be able to. So it can leave people feeling a bit lost and a bit directionless. To quote Drake, we're a generation lacking in patience, but purpose gives us direction, gives us reason. So first of all, let's tackle this attention span thing. Instagram, social media, and yes, we've heard it before about how Instagram, social media is bad for us because of the comparison and it makes us feel like we're not being or doing enough. For me, social media has actually hijacked my attention span. By allowing myself to continuously scroll from one thing to the next, it's rewired my attention span to that of only a few minutes before wanting to go and find something else. Hands up how many people at home have been watching a film and then all of a sudden you feel the urge to pick up your phone. Not only do you feel the urge, but you then might actually pick up your phone, have a quick scroll, reply back to a message, all while the film is still playing. Hands up. I definitely have. How mad is that? Think about how mad that is and the habit that that's built up within us. Same with multitasking. Yes, it has its obvious benefits, but it's rewiring our brain to spread our attention thinly over a few different activities that just don't last. So no wonder people are feeling restless. We have literally wired ourselves into that situation. Restlessness comes from a lack of stimulation and wanting to do something, but those somethings that we do don't seem to last very long anymore. And when there's less of them to do, we feel more frustrated because our options are limited. But if we train ourselves out of the habit of short attention spans, then we're not going to feel as restless anymore. And we train ourselves out of it by having longer term goals. And this, again, is where purpose comes in. There's a book I read last year called Ikigai. Now, I'm not too sure if that's how it's pronounced. I've heard it pronounced Ikigai, but I'm just going to go with Ikigai for this. So I won't give too much of a spoiler, as it's a great book and I highly recommend it. It's a non-fiction, and these guys travel around the world to what is referred to as blue zones. Now, blue zones are areas in the world that have the highest density of centurions and super centurions. So centurions are people that live over 100. Super centurions are the people that live over 110. And they wanted to find out what their secret is to living such a long life. Was it their diet? Was it their genetics? And obviously those things have a role to play, but as the blue zones were in different areas of the world, their diets varied, and obviously genetics have a high variability. The constants that remained between all of these blue zones was that they had a tight community and they had a purpose, a reason for being, a reason for living. So they honed in on the Okinawans specifically and delved deeper into their meaning of Ikigai. You might have heard of people that have retired and then shortly after they've passed away. Or you might have heard of somebody not wanting to retire because they feel they won't have a purpose. People need a reason, and Ikigai roughly translates as reason for being. The Western translation cannot grab the full potency of this Japanese concept, but what you can be sure about is that it is personal to you. It is your reason, it is your motive. And the feeling of Ikigai is a sense of existence, a sense of control, a sense of fulfillment, and a sense of realization. Purpose doesn't have to be something big like building schools or finding the cure for some exotic disease. In fact, in this Ikigai book, it tells a story of a gentleman who had lost his wife. So his Ikigai, his reason for carrying on, is that through living, he had stopped his wife from feeling the pain of losing him. So he carries that burden for her. That's his reason for living. So even in the darkest places, you can still find your purpose. Ikigais aren't always enjoyable experiences, but they do give you strength. They do give you the energy to carry on, even when it feels like you've got nothing left. Frodo definitely didn't enjoy crossing Middle-earth, fighting orcs and giant spiders, but he had a purpose: to destroy the ring. That was his Ikigai, and his purpose gave him the strength that he needed to do it. Yes, it's Hollywood, but you get the picture. And if you can't find one, if you can't find a purpose, then create one. Create a long-term goal for yourself, something that you can chip away at every single day. Every single day you'll make a little more progression. And don't be afraid of slow progression, because running water never grows stale. No matter how slow it goes, it never goes stale. It's only when the water becomes still that it becomes stagnant and stinks to high heaven. As well as purpose that I use to get me through harder times, I also use anchor points. Little things, small moments of consistency, which gives me a feeling of normality, doing things that are actually within my control. Anchor points for me are like checkpoints that I tap into throughout the course of my day. It might be something small like making your bed or nodding to the trees outside when you wake up in the morning. But these little checkpoints, these little tag points give some type of consistency and give me an anchoring and a grounding, regardless of how big or small. Anchor points are something that I can hold on to when it feels like the world is out of my hands. It gives me some stability. And this is something that no one can take away from me. Every morning I go to my fridge and I have these magnetic words, and from them, every day I create a little poem. That's an anchor point that I turned into an Ikigai, because eventually I wanted to make a book out of them. And I did, which you can now find on the Amazon Kindle store right now. Am I what? I'm not plugging the book. I'm not plugging the book. I'm definitely not plugging the book. The link's in the description. But yeah, I just wanted to give you an insight as to how I find grounding, training my attention span to focus on longer term goals, which decreases my restlessness in the present and then gives me something to work towards and look forward to. So find your reason and remind yourself of it frequently, and you will open a space and tap into an energy that can keep you going and give you a greater sense of fulfillment day to day. And also anchor points and routines to give you some sort of stability, even when the world doesn't feel all that stable. Thank you for your time, guys.